Here's a story a lot of you might know. In April of 2020, two Minecraft creators, Dream and George Not Found, started a survival multiplayer server for them and their friends to play on. This decision had countless unknowable consequences, and I will never forgive them for it. I want to be clear off the bat, this video is not a comprehensive recap or review of the Dream SMP, nor is it solely about this SMP. As we'll see, narratives told through Minecraft were not a new phenomenon with the Dream SMP, but it is surely the most successful example of one. I'm assuming that most of you have at least a basic understanding of what the Dream SMP was. In the beginning, Dream and friends played a pretty standard survival server, building various houses, community buildings, and other landmarks in an era of relative peace. A few months after starting, the SMP began adding new members that were outside of Dream's core team at the time, leading to fan favorites like TommyInnit and Tubbo being added. A narrative began to take shape, with creators slowly developing their personas and characters over time. By the end of the server, countless wars had been waged, political systems rose and fell, people lived and died and lived again. For a time, the Dream SMP had a chokehold on the online Minecraft community, garnering hundreds of thousands of fan edits, fan art, and other fan works like songs and fan fiction. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that here. What started as a bog-standard survival server amongst friends grew to a global phenomenon fueled by stories that took place almost entirely within the bounds of a Minecraft server. Instead of more traditional storytelling mediums like books, movies, or TV shows, Minecraft was the medium. At first, players weren't role-playing as characters in a story, but were rather just playing Minecraft. Early conflicts arose like most conflicts do in any standard multiplayer server. One player steals from another, a player destroys part of your base, etc. For example, following Tommy's arrival was a series of confrontations between Dream and Tommy regarding a set of Tommy's music discs. The interactions, alliances, betrayals, and deceptions largely between Tommy and Dream made up much of the disc saga, which for many people was the high point of the Dream SMP narrative. The narrative was entirely dependent on the mechanics within its medium. Music discs exist within Minecraft as a treasure, a rarer item that doesn't serve much of a purpose besides being rare and collectible. Because the discs exist within Minecraft as a treasure mechanic, they are given narrative weight as valuable throughout this saga. The discs are important artifacts to Tommy due to their perceived but largely artificial importance within the game of Minecraft itself. Just real quick before we go any further, we all know that this is about Minecraft YouTubers, and we all know that Minecraft YouTubers are allergic to being good people, so yes, there will be mention of more than a few nasty creators, but removing them from the narrative entirely would be completely disingenuous, so I'm gonna split the difference and just give a live Claude reaction every time I mention somebody horrible. Just know that my talking about them is in no way condoning or excusing anything they've done, obviously. Speaking of which, as fan interest in the story grew, members of the Dream SMP began taking it more seriously. Disgraced freak Wilbur Soot seems to have led the charge early on, with the Business Insider reporting that, quote, Soot said he wrote a treatment for how the formation of L'Manberg would go, creating an official canon that fans could follow along with. With this era, the server began to transition to a more scripted, lore-forward series with the L'Manberg Rebellion arc, which itself was a result of the disc disputes, where the inception of L'Manberg as a nation came from Wilbur and Tommy realizing that their enemies on the server were all American, so they all banded together with other Europeans to form an independent nation. As far as it's been talked about from the actual creators, the scripted part of the lore was largely pieces written in advance by Wilbur Soot or other writers for the Dream SMP and given to each player so that players knew the general vibes and sort of things that needed to happen for the story, but players were given the freedom to still sort of improv and let their natural story unfold as well. It was a sort of mix of both the script and the improv moments that made the Dream SMP story work. During this arc, Wilbur would also create one of the most important aspects of the narrative, being the 3 lives system. The narrative of the game had begun to run against the mechanics of Minecraft. In the canon of the Dream SMP, these events were serious, with potentially life or death stakes. Within Minecraft, death was a common, often comedic outcome, so the Dream SMP team made a compromise. Characters would have 3 canon lives, and after losing all 3, they would die narratively. For the most part, these deaths were divorced from the everyday wear and tear of Minecraft. Somebody falling off a cliff or burning to death in the Nether wouldn't affect the narrative of the story. However, deaths during major events, often planned out in advance, would be part of the story's canon. The SMP walked a thin line between the mechanics and the narrative, trying to weave together serious narrative moments with, and this is a literary term, dicking around. As the story grew, they began walking another even thinner line between character and creator. The true defining trait of the Dream SMP comes down to its use of character. More and more, the person inside the Minecraft world became increasingly divorced from the person using the keyboard, eventually becoming a completely different entity in the eyes of fans. Fans even created their own syntax for differentiating the creator from the character in discussions, using C! Name for character and CC! For the content creator. Characters at first retained most of the traits of their creator, just heightened slightly for entertainment. For example, C. Tommy was the younger, more impulsive one of the group, being a little more cringe and a little more optimistic than other characters. On the other side, C. Dream was more aggressive, more competitive. Both reflect the base traits present in the creators, but heightened for entertainment purposes. As time went on, the characters became more and more divorced, with additional lore being written to further differentiate the characters. Characters became different species, like C. Rambu being half Enderman, or C. Fundy being a fox. Viewers became attached to these characters, writing more fan fiction and fan lore, which only fanned the flames and influenced the creators to go further and further. In a lot of ways, the fans and the creators had a symbiotic relationship. As fan interest grew, more effort was put into the lore and story side of the SMP, which caused fan interest to grow, causing more effort, and so on and so forth. By the end of the SMP, characters were fully distinct entities from their creators, with many creators even playing multiple distinct characters. These characters had their own histories, their own traumas that informed their motivations and actions. They became completely divorced from their creator counterparts, aside from a few similarities like name and basic shared personality traits. These characters became wholly new, reaching a truly new frontier of Minecraft storytelling, where characters evolved and grew on their own. There was nothing else quite like it. Nothing else but professional wrestling. I'm Hayes, the vocab destroyer, and it's ultra macho vocab time! Rah! I'll suplex the dictionary, I'll powerbomb the thesaurus, I'll KO the other vocab-related reference books! Kayfabe is a lie that everyone pretends to believe. The term originated in the early years of professional wrestling and has evolved a lot over time. Professional wrestling got its start as a carnival sideshow in the early 1900s. During this time, wrestling personas, like this one, were created. Benjamin Litherland, a media and cultural studies scholar at the University of Huddersfield, in his Notes on Kayfabe essay, states the following: "Characters, masks, comedy, dramatic narratives between good and evil were integrated into the show to a greater or lesser degree depending on the local and national contexts. Claims of legitimacy were maintained, albeit with differing degrees of commitment, until the 1970s and 80s, producing a long-standing confusion from the press about professional wrestling's cultural status. And don't forget to eat your vocab veggies." Old kayfabe was present in those earlier years of wrestling, starting with the framed carnival exhibitions and into the earlier years of televised wrestling like the WWE, which at the time was called the WWF. Old kayfabe referred to the idea of obfuscating the truth through consistent commitment, both in and out of the ring. The wrestling performers were expected to maintain their characters throughout their entire public life. Old kayfabe began to break down following a series of events surrounding the WWF WWF in the late 80s, first with supposed heated rivals the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan being arrested together after a cop found them drinking and doing coke in the same car, and culminating in Vince McMahon, the head honcho of the WWF, admitting to the New Jersey State Senate that the matches were fake. McMahon testified to the New Jersey Senate in an attempt to deregulate his shows in the state so he wouldn't have to provide as extensive medical support to his wrestlers. And somehow this doesn't even rank in the top 25 most evil things McMahon has done. At least the McMahon family is no longer in charge and can't cause any more harm. Oh god, oh no, oh god, why? Although the lie of wrestling was exposed to the public, the wrestlers didn't want to lose the illusion for good. Wrestlers and promoters began including fans on the joke. Abraham Josephine Reisman coined this new phase as neo-kayfabe. Within this new framework, fans were aware that the events were fake, and yet a social contract formed between performer and fans to engage as if it was real. Instead of duping fans, they were let in on the joke. In many ways, neo-kayfabe is not dissimilar to more traditional forms of media. We know actors are just acting, yet we suspend our disbelief to allow the events of the story to play out. All professional wrestling is doing is taking it a step forward, inviting you to keep your disbelief suspended beyond the bounds of the television screen or the stage. It's like if Tom Cruise, instead of being called Tom Cruise in public, insisted that his name was actually Nick Morton and that yes, he really did almost fuck that mummy. But neo-kayfabe takes it a step beyond even this definition. Wrestling under neo-kayfabe is simultaneously giving fans a peek behind the curtain and revealing there is a new, separate curtain inside. We know that somewhere there is some truth hidden behind the flag, and so everything behind it is simultaneously fake and yet could be true. It's like Schrodinger's battle cat. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh, right. The Dream SMP operated on the same kayfabe we just spent way too long explaining. From a 1,000-foot view, the Dream SMP and its characters were fake. We know this, fans at the time knew this, that's why fans created the C! syntax in the first place. Dream SMP fans were engaging with the kayfabe of the Dream SMP in the same way that wrestling fans do. The fans knew that the player Quackity didn't have PTSD, but C! Quackity did. Erit didn't betray their friends, but there are countless fan edits and fan animatics where C! Erit did. Tommy and Dream didn't really hate each other, but wait, or did they? Schlatt takes it even further. C. Schlatt is manipulative, crass, abrasive, a proud alcoholic. C.C. Schlatt, on the other hand, is, well, manipulative, crass, abrasive, and a proud alcoholic. From this distance, it seems like C. Schlatt and C.C. Schlatt are the same, only defined by their individual histories and experiences, but otherwise nearly identical personality-wise. Which is where things get even more interesting. C. Schlatt is a character played by C.C. Schlatt, which itself is a character played by the real Schlatt. R. Schlatt? His persona is playing a persona. It's a hat on a hat on a hat. And because of all of this, the Dream SMP fits squarely into the neo-kayfabe box that we described earlier. Fans knew for a fact that the Dream SMP was fake and that they were just characters, but the line between real and fake was often blurred regardless, with canon narrative events being sandwiched between genuine moments of Minecraft gameplay. Overall, the Dream SMP thrived due to its engaging character drama. Viewers became invested not just to see how Tommy and Dream interacted, but instead how C. Tommy and C. Dream's ongoing feud would develop. The personas drove engagement and interest in the story, and Minecraft facilitated it, similar to how wrestlers use wrestling to advance storylines. The Dream SMP popularized character-driven narratives in Minecraft, but it was far from the first narrative Minecraft series. Here's a story some of you might know. In December of 2010, two World of Warcraft creators, Lewis and Simon, started a Minecraft survival multiplayer server to play together. This decision had sprawling consequences that rippled through the entirety of gaming YouTube. Lewis and Simon initially created videos in 2008, eventually going by the name The Yogscast, using the initials of their World of Warcraft clan name, Ye Olde Goon Squad, making them OG Gooners. The Yogscast got its its start creating WoW tutorials and playthroughs, but soon expanded to other games like Fallout New Vegas and eventually Minecraft. Lewis and Simon began their Minecraft survival series soon after the first full release of Minecraft in late 2010. In the beginning, Lewis and Simon played a pretty standard survival server, building a shelter in the Yogg Cave, creating tools and searching for diamonds, and discovering iconic landmarks in an era of relative peace. This series was aptly named Minecraft Survival Series, and the server was explicitly just for Lewis and Simon and not intended to be a larger multiplayer server. The series would continue as a normal playthrough, with some odd occurrences. In one episode, a strange tree appears outside the Yogg Cave. In another, the pair find a pyramid filled with lava that is not the standard Minecraft pyramid. Everything changed in episode 17, where this happened.
Yeah, okay, so that is like the corner bit. Ow.
So can you see that? What? Can you see that name there, Simon?
Fuck! Who the hell is that?
I have no fucking idea. Whoa! Are they?
Ow! What the They're shooting arrows at me!
Oh my god! What are we supposed to do about this?
I don't know.
The world was supposed to be just Lewis and Simon playing Minecraft. But now there's someone. A pale man in a dark suit with red glowing eyes. He created the so-called dark constructions that the duo discovered with the tree and the pyramid. The pair chase after the man, but ultimately lose him and decide to head back home. Things calm down and go back to normal for the next few episodes, before Israfel reappears in episode 21, attacking the duo again. Lewis and Simon chase after him again and eventually find a wooden bridge that leads to a village. Mind you, this was almost a year before natural villages even existed in the game. The town was mostly abandoned, but they met an innkeeper named Old Peculiar, a blacksmith named Daisy Duke, and a reverend named Reverend John. This is where the series truly became a narrative. We meet NPCs and learn about the lore of this world. This town, Terrorvale, was abandoned for some unknown reason. Lewis and Simon go on a quest for Daisy Duke, and we learn that Israfel was the deceased son of Reverend John. Ultimately, Lewis and Simon discover a hidden fortress under the town, where Israfel has captured Daisy Duke. They fail to rescue her, and Israfel escapes into the Nether, ending Season 1. This might be the very first narrative-focused Minecraft series ever made. This was before mods, before build teams, before even birch trees, and yet they still made villages and castles and towns and quests. After a brief and mostly unrelated Season 2 on a deserted island, the series returned for Season 3 and was officially renamed Shadow of Israfel. This season dropped all pretenses of this series being just a normal standard Minecraft survival server series, and instead saw Lewis, Simon, Old Peculiar, and Skylord Lysander on a globe-trotting adventure across Minecraftia to save Daisy Duke and defeat Israfel once and for all. The Yogscast built entire cities, fortresses, and lore for the series in a game that had only entered beta halfway through the first season. Compared to the Dream SMP, Shadow of Israfel was much more like a traditional adventure video game, with the duo being the main protagonist exploring new lands and meeting new NPCs. In this series, we follow the POV of just the two of them, as opposed to the Dream SMP having like 20 main characters at any one time. Shadow of Israfel was also less scripted than lore moments in the Dream SMP, at least from Lewis and Simon's perspective. They were told the basic strokes of a situation, but another group built, planned, and executed the story, so many moments during the story are the duo's legitimate reaction to the events. Shadow of Israfel would never be finished. For various reasons, the series ended unceremoniously with Season 3, Episode 42 on July 27th, 2012, just a year and a half after it started. The Yogscast has talked about the ending many times in the past, and during a holiday charity live stream, they eventually showed off a never finished animation that would have been part of the final episode. But despite the small glimpses we've been given, with over 13 years since the final episode, we will never see the true conclusion of the Shadow of Israfel story. But this would not be the end of the partially narrative Minecraft series for the Yogscast. No. This was just the beginning. About a month before the final episode of Shadow of Israfel came the first episode of Jaffa Factory. Lewis, Simon, and fellow WoW guild member Duncan embarked on a modded Minecraft journey to create, well, a factory for Jaffa cakes. During this time, the Yogscast also began to expand. Lewis and Simon brought many members of their WoW clan into the fold, leading to an explosion of Yogscast creators and channels. Duncan, Sips, Shin, Hannah, and Rithian made up the initial wave of new Yogscast channels, with each participating in or hosting their own Tekkit series on the same server. Other members like In the Littlewood or Kim would join soon after. This era was defined by the companies and corporations that were formed by members of the server. Honeydew Inc. in the Jaffa Factory series and Sipsco in the Dirt Factory series were the two major companies, but they were joined by smaller groups like Shakespeare and Jurassic Park, In the Little Core, Lombucket Industries, Railbros Inc., The Captive Creeper, The Crooked Caber, and Nilesy's Best and Greatest. From Tekkit, the Yogscast crew expanded further and further into different series using different mod packs and servers, but often connecting to one another through small narrative connections. The narrative of the Yogscast Minecraft universe, or the YMU if you will, was constructed in ways both similar and entirely different to the Dream SMP. While both were a mix of a Minecraft playthrough with scripted and improvised lore sequences, the Yogscast differed in the importance of the lore. There are two major types of series for the Yogscast: those that begin as a simple Minecraft Let's Play, and those that were justified with a narrative. Though different starting points, lore was often sprinkled throughout both types to force the players to go in new directions or to reference previous storylines. For an example of the first type, the series Moon Quest was originally created just to get to the moon using the Galactic Craft mod, but later pivoted to Mars Quest to rescue Sips, who had been stranded on Mars after being captured by aliens during the Sipsco space program series. What started as a simple Galacticraft playthrough became about rescuing somebody from a rival corporation from Mars. It forced the players to go in new directions, being Mars, and also forced them to contend with working with another member of this rival corporation, Shin. As an example of the second type, in Druid's Downtown, Shin, Lewis, and Duncan were ordered to build a city by King Oberon, a Fey king who had earlier led to the creation of the previous Druid series. Druid's Downtown is also a sequel to the Time Cop series, itself an explicit sequel to the Magic Police series, sharing vague plot points and characters like King Oberon. There are far too many Yogscast series to go over all of them and their connections to each other individually, but here's a few examples. All of the Tekkit series, like Jaffa Factory, Black Chronicle Rising, and Sipsco, are all set on the same server and have recurring characters and storylines. The Tekkit server was eventually converted to their own custom Yogcraft mod pack, which led to the creation of multiple new series, like Shin's Feed the World series, Duncan's Laboratory, and The Apprentice, with Kim. The latter two became intertwined, with The Apprentice's Kim, whose series was about visiting everybody on the server and sort of spending a day with them to learn whatever specific mods they're doing at the time, becoming Duncan's permanent apprentice in his Laboratory series. At the end of the Laboratory series, Duncan and Kim have to flee their castle through a flux vortex, landing in a new server that the Moon Quest series took place on, using a new custom mod pack. Duncan and Kim's Galacticraft series would then become Flux Buddies, one of the most iconic series in the YMU, partially focused on defluxing Kim, who had been infected during their escape at the end of Duncan's laboratory. Flux Buddies then crosses over with Magic Police, which then connects to Time Cops, Druids, Druids Regrowth, and Druids Downtown, as well as Flux Buddies 2.0, 3.0, and 4. Following the main Moon Quest series, which became Mars Quest and then Jaffa Quest, came Hole Diggers, with the same cast playing the same characters. That series ended with a black hole opening up and sucking up the clones of the trio that had been made, of which 3 were woken up 1,000 years later in Deep Space Mine. Deep Space Mine has some of the most important lore drops for the entire YMU, expanding on the clones and suggesting that the cloning done in the Yog Labs series were responsible for the characters in all of these other series, as well as being a catalyst for the original Shadow of Israfel series. Most of these series happened almost 10 years ago, with little to no follow-up since. However, just when you think the YMU is done comes Jaffa Factory 2 from last year. This was the first new lore in years and contained references to the Deep Space Mine cloning beginning, as well as other series throughout the years. Essentially, the narrative of the YMU is just a collection of partially connected Minecraft Let's Play series, strung along on tiny narrative webs connecting each series to another in some contrived way, either explicitly or implicitly. There isn't some grand storyline hidden at the heart of these series, but it's just fun, partially scripted moments connecting back to older series and their loose storylines. Aside from the differences we've already discussed, the Dream SMP and the YMU differed in how they presented these stories to the audience. For the most part, new Dream SMP story was presented through lore streams, Twitch streams where important lore-impacting events would happen. While these were usually repackaged into YouTube videos, either by the creator themselves or by fans, the original intended experience was as a live stream through Twitch. On the opposite end, the YMU is almost entirely told through YouTube videos, usually recorded in batches but released in separately packaged videos. While Minecraft is the medium for both of these stories, Twitch and YouTube make up an entirely new layer. Now, I've been throwing around the word medium a lot, and it's probably past time to explain exactly what I mean beyond just shit I consume. A medium, as defined by Marshall McLuhan in his 1964 book Understanding Media, is broadly a technology that conveys information. Next slide. A light bulb, he argues, is a medium. It conveys the information of light, but it doesn't contain any content. It simply just is. Similar to a Russian nesting doll, McLuhan argues that content within a more complex medium must itself be its own medium. So the content of a medium like a newspaper is itself a medium of written words and photographs. From this, we get the phrase, "the medium is the message," coined by McLuhan himself. McLuhan argues that the way in which you convey information is itself a message. He argues that the exact same information conveyed through two different mediums changes the message and changes the way in which information is ingested. For example, imagine a true crime case being presented in two different ways, a website and a documentary. The information contained within each of them might be the exact same, but the website has different tabs and headers and pictures and videos that interrupt the flow of the article. The content of this medium is delivered through the written word. You can easily reread, skim, skip, even copy the text at your own heart's content. The information requires you to read it, and it will sit and wait for you to do so. Contrast this with a documentary of the same case. Assuming that it contains the exact same information, interviews, and evidence, the case should be presented the same exact way regardless of medium. However, by virtue of a documentary being a video-based medium, the experience of seeing this case is completely different. Information presented in the documentary is presented linearly and temporally, meaning that as the information is given to you, the documentary continues unbroken. This is contrasted, of course, with the website's different headers and photos and ability to reread and skim through text, whereas a documentary will continue to plug through even if you aren't paying attention. The website won't read itself, but the documentary will play itself. In addition, the visual component of a documentary is itself a drastic change from just a website. Instead of just pictures and words on a page, a documentary is a full visual experience, meaning that words you might read in an interview on an article are instead said in the documentary, which gives a completely different emotional response. Next slide. So what does this have to do with Minecraft roleplay? As it turns out, a lot actually. Take the difference between YouTube and Twitch as a medium. Both contain the content of Minecraft, which itself is a medium, but with drastically different goals and effects. Twitch live streams are, by definition, live, meaning that the information conveyed is happening in real time, with the viewers able to engage with and interact with the content as it was unfolding. Within the Dream SMP, the chat itself was often a canonical part of lore for many characters, like Phil's chat being crows that follow him, meaning that the chat itself is part of the medium, is part of the message. By virtue of being live streamed, the content of Minecraft is just inherently different. Many live streams, though not all, were accompanied by a webcam of the creator, adding yet another layer of a medium. As we can see here, we have the chat that is showing real-time chat, which is now part of the experience, as well as the webcam of my good friend Tommy Innit, who is my actual friend and is actually live streaming this right now. Aren't you, Tommy? See? You're reacting to me in real time. Zooming out to the Dream SMP at large, the medium was not just one live stream, but instead multiple different live streams going on at the same time. This itself changes the content, as viewers are able to jump to different points of view at their heart's content. All of these aspects contribute to the fan culture of the Dream SMP. Fans felt like they were part of something, not just the community, but the content itself. Their contributions, be it in chat, as a fanfic, or an animation, added to the overall mythos of the Dream SMP, which was unfolding in real time, with many fans slotting the SMP into their daily lives. Going even further, fandom is in and of itself a medium containing multitudes of different mediated content. From a big picture perspective, the Dream SMP as a medium was not just the Minecraft server, it was the live streams, the fan works, the players' Twitter accounts, the in-jokes, the discussions, hell, the vibes. Contrast that with the YMU. Each individual series is usually just a small cast of players being recorded simultaneously, with their perspectives cut between throughout an episode. Episodes are recorded well in advance and often in batches. Interplay between multiple series is rare and limited to special occasions, often just as a reference or minor character appearance. Unlike the Dream SMP, choosing certain POVs to watch is no longer part of the medium, instead chosen for you by the editors. There aren't even any webcams, with player POVs instead represented by the small avatar icons in the corners whenever the perspective shifts. Looking at the big picture of the YMU, the series were spread out over almost 15 years, with little sense of continuity. Since the videos are pre-recorded, they aren't live. There's no live aspect, no chat. Sure, you could leave a comment, but since these are pre-recorded in batches, they aren't likely to see that comment until a month after this part was actually played. The fandom is also significantly smaller here, in part due to being more of a niche audience, and also just because there are less Yogscast creators. The reach of the fandom is much smaller, with less fan works and discussion being held, with most discussions being held just through the Reddit page. For the most part, fan discussion is less focused on individual series or any narratives, but more so on the overall Yogscast as a company, and a lot of nostalgic pondering of series that you used to be a fan of when you were younger. This might sound like I'm being negative towards the Yogscast, but I don't really think that that's the case. The goals of the YMU and the Dream SMP are vastly different. The Dream SMP set out to create a narrative woven between over 20 different perspectives. It sought to explore the depths of how far a narrative can be pushed through what is ostensibly just a glorified Minecraft Let's Play. On the other hand, the YMU hardly wants to push the boundary. Most series are explicitly just a Minecraft Let's Play, and hell, they sort of defined the genre. On the whole, the lore and the narrative of the Yogscast are more of just a side project. A few Easter eggs and scripted moments just for fun. Shadow of Israfel is of course the notable exception here, with it being an explicit narrative series after the first couple of episodes. Next slide. The Yogscast and the Dream SMP are far from the only series that blended Minecraft with a narrative. If anything, narratives in Minecraft series are almost the default, with most channels, particularly those focused on survival worlds, including at least some degree of storytelling. For some examples, Hermitcraft, Aphmau, Sam Gladiator, Xylophone, fun fact, I was in one of these, White Pine, hell, the hundreds of thousands of SMPs that sprung from the Dream SMP's success. Narratives told through Minecraft, whether as the explicit purpose or just as a fun side project, are one of the game's most time-honored traditions. A tradition that I'm betting you were part of as well. See, narratives told through Minecraft don't necessarily have to be in Minecraft. They can be stories, pictures, 4chan posts, legends. Herobrine is the ghost in the machine, an urban legend that haunted the game's foggy hills and dark caves. As the story goes, Herobrine is the ghost of the creator Notch's dead brother, who haunts Notch's creation as a dark entity hell-bent on causing fear and pain to the players. It doesn't matter that Herobrine never existed in the game, nor that Notch doesn't even have a brother, but for gullible kids, Herobrine lurked behind every corner, just out of view in the depths of the dark cave. cave. There were various shrines said to summon him. Any block placed out of place was proof that he was there. After the legend spread, Notch started including cheeky references to Herobrine in the patch notes, with many updates over the years ending with removed Herobrine. These were clearly silly jokes about the legend, but to a kid, it was irrefutable proof that Herobrine was in the game after all. I remember seeing one of those patch notes as a child and losing my goddamn mind. I recorded a video on a shitty old iPhone back in the day saying that I had found irrefutable proof that Herobrine was real, using the patch notes as evidence and lamenting that he had been removed, but that he definitely was in the game before. And maybe I was just a stupid kid, but I'm willing to bet at least one of you was also a stupid kid. That video exists somewhere in the net sphere, just one of millions of kids convinced that the story of Herobrine was not just a story. Some elements were shared by everyone. The look, the vibe, the monuments, the ghostly backstory. But other pieces of the narrative are wholly unique to each individual, and all of the moments that made them believe. Maybe it was being stuck in a dark cave when a cave sound played. Maybe it was a dark and stormy night dodging shadows on your way back to your base, or finding a burned down forest without an apparent cause, or seeing a strange structure or land formation, or a prank, a shadow, a patch note, a YouTube video way past your bedtime. Hell, seeing the 4chan post that started this whole thing. If you knew about Herobrine, you have your own narrative wholly unique to yourself. This story literally couldn't exist without Minecraft. The blocks, the sounds, the videos, the nostalgia, they all exist because of the game. Minecraft was the medium for your own story. And it's not just Herobrine. Here's a story you definitely don't know. In January 2021, two small Minecraft creators created a narrative-driven SMP for them and other small creators to play on. This was the Daybreak SMP, and if any of you know what I'm talking about, I will give you $1 million. I didn't create this SMP, that credit goes to Mary Bear, but I was one of the founding members. Mary was inspired by the Dream SMP, and most of the members were into it as well. The SMP was part Dream SMP, part Maze Runner, part Survivor, with most of us players, known as capital S subjects, trapped within giant obsidian walls by capital A agents who worked for the capital O organization. The first season of the SMP was entirely confined within these walls. The 12 of us original subjects lived day to day within the walls, created our own society in town. Week to week, we'd participate in a challenge, with losers being eliminated and killed based on a point system. The final player remaining would win the challenge and would be elevated to an agent. To the viewers, once you were eliminated, you were removed from the SMP, but we were actually secretly sent to a ravine outside of the walls where we built our new society that was revealed in season 2 of the SMP. At the time, I wasn't Hey It's Haze. I was Slotha. I streamed Minecraft, Pokemon, Blazeball live commentary, a Culver's taste test. I was a capital M, capital C Minecraft creator, complete with my own setup, in-jokes, and regular viewers. On the SMP, I was C Slotha, who was a sloth who dreamed of farming. That was kind of my whole gimmick. I kind of just farmed potatoes and baked them for the town's food supply. C Slotha knew she could never win the game, but she held on as long as she could to make sure everyone was fed. We created characters and personas, we acted them out, we roleplayed them. It was a true narrative SMP experience. I won't bog this down with a full recap of the Daybreak SMP. I can't remember much anyway, and I certainly don't have any documentation or notes or stream recordings. What I do have is the memories of how that SMP felt. If you'll indulge my emotions for a brief moment, I have an incredible sense of nostalgia for this time in my life. It was a very difficult time. It was the second semester of my freshman year of college. That year was during the height of COVID still being taken seriously, and it was an incredibly isolating experience. I struggled to make friends on campus for that entire first year. I truly every day would just see my roommate. I'd hop on my Zoom call classes, I'd close my laptop and I'd go to sleep. It was an incredibly isolating and lonely time in my life. And that's when I found this community of people. And that community was built entirely from the Daybreak SMP. We talked regularly. We played Minecraft weekly. We would plan out storylines and character beats. We went to Minecraft Disneyland and played the Buzz Lightyear game till we got on the leaderboard. We never did, by the way. Here's a secret. I have never watched the Dream SMP. Not once. Not one episode. I did not give a shit. But my friends were the biggest fans at the time, and so I heard all about it from them. In fact, I think this entire video exists because of that time in my life. I have no memory or connection to the Dream SMP of my own, but when I was thinking about this video and coming up with the ideas and writing things down, it just kept bringing up these memories of this time and of those people and of those friends, and I think that really drove me to make this video to be what it is. You might have noticed the ratty and faded and stained sweatshirt that I've been wearing throughout this video. This is a collection of all of our creator personas in a Last Supper-esque arrangement, as you can tell. It was drawn by, I believe, @Asan Draws. I don't know if they're still an online artist, but still credit to them for this image. I tried to track down what the original one looked like, and I can't find it anywhere. So from what I can tell, this is about as good as we're gonna get it for this video. This is me, Slotha. I know you can't really see it, but there's a sloth there. I wear this sweatshirt literally all the time, not only because it's somehow the most comfortable thing that I own, even though it's just a basic gray sweatshirt that is probably from Hobby Lobby, but also because it reminds me not of a better time, but a different one. It's fading now, and the names of most of the creators and friends on it are fading as well. If you are, or more likely were, on this sweatshirt and you somehow came across this video, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Minecraft is a powerful game. Through its lack of story, we create our own, a time-honored tradition passed down from creator to creator, from friend to friend. Minecraft has brought me close to people throughout my life, and if you clicked on this video, I'm willing to bet it did the same for you. Whether it was as a fan of a creator, being a creator yourself, or even just playing on a server with friends, you remember the iconic moments from the SMP, or the incident that happened on your own server, or even just a moment alone deep in a cave at 3 a.m. when the music hits just right. You remember building an altar for Herobrine, or building your own version of Yogg Labs, pulling off an impossible rescue from the Nether. The countless stories we create in this game are as powerful as any other. When I was on the Daybreak SMP, when I was a capital M, capital C Minecraft creator, I was the art and the artist, the medium, the content, and the viewer. And now I see that anyone who plays this game, anyone who has a story, is too. I will always remember when Minecraft was me, and I hope you will too. Thank you.